The Home Tech Podcast is supported by listeners like you. To find out more, go to HomeTech.fm/support.
This is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, November 30th, 2018. I'm Seth Johnson, and this week I was sick. So this week I can hear my voice coming back, but I couldn't sit down and record the show as we normally do. So Jason stepped up and was able to get on the phone with a friend of the show, good friend of the show, James Radcliffe, over there in the UK, and talk to him about a showroom project that he has been working on for quite some time. If you've listened to the show for a while, you probably remember us hilariously picking a rendering version of his project and thinking that it was something real. Like, look, check out this really awesome showroom. Well, it turns out that was a render, but when he finished, the showroom looks just as good as the rendering. It definitely looks better than the rendering. So lots of cool things he's done in the showroom. So let's go ahead and jump in to that interview. But one quick thing before we do jump in, there were some weird audio issues that we had with Jason's mic this week. I've never heard this audio issue before, and I know Jason's never heard it before. But it was very strange. It ended up on the recording. So sorry about that. We'll try and dig down and figure out what was going on with that for the show next week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the interview with James Radcliffe of Homeplay.
Hey, James, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm all good. Thanks very much. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you joining us here. I know it's a little bit late where you are over there in the UK, but we're excited to have you on for an installment of our projects project. And I would say this is a pretty special installment. We've been watching your development of this new showroom that you guys have over there in the UK, and it has come together very, very nicely from what I can tell by the pictures and the videos. So congrats on finishing that project, and we're gonna talk all about it and jump into some of your trials and tribulations and the different technology that you have running that showroom there. But for the benefit of our listeners, before we jump into that, why don't you give us just a quick personal introduction?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the home tech industry since I was 14. I'm 38 now, so yikes, that's half my life. Is it? No, it's more than that. My maths is really bad. No, it's a lot more than that. It's my maths is so bad, but it's a lot.
It's a long time.
Maybe we can edit. It's a long time. Can we edit this out? So I got a job in my local hi-fi shop when I was 14 because I was really into music, and I thought the best way of me getting a really good hi-fi system was to be able to buy it at trade price in the hi-fi shop and earn the money while I was working there, learning about speakers and stuff. And I stayed there at the same hi-fi shop until I was 24, so 10 years. So to be working somewhere for 10 years at the age of 24, I imagine is quite rare.
Yeah.
But I learned loads, and I loved it. It was an old-fashioned hi-fi shop, like stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap. So we were dirty discounters, really. But it was a fun time with a really good bunch of people, and I learned a lot there. And about 18 years old, we started doing installations. And at the time, it was when people were starting to come into the shop with printouts from Google saying, "Can you match this price?" So the end of box shifting, basically.
Right.
And so I started doing some installations, and before long, my little bit of the company doing the installs was earning more than the 3 shops that we had, which wasn't hard because they were all losing money. So it wasn't a high bar that I had to meet. And the boss of the company just said, "Hey, look, like retail's kind of dead. Installations are obviously the way to go." And he plowed a load of money into building what at the time was an amazing showroom. And I was running it at the tender age of about 21, 22. So I had a few people working under me, some of which were a lot older than me. And frankly, I wasn't really ready for it. So it didn't, I'll be honest, it wasn't a stellar success. But I certainly learned a lot. And about that time, I joined the board of CEDIA. I was 24 years old. I think at the time I was the youngest board member in the world. I think I still may be even now. I don't
May
know.
still hold that title.
Possibly. Don't
Yeah.
don't hold me to that. But yeah, it may well be the case. And then while I was on the board, I met another guy who I got on super well with, and I went to work for him for 6 months, but it didn't really pan out. And then I started Homeplay, and I had about 700 pounds, that is, in the bank, and I thought someone rang me up on my mobile saying they wanted a home cinema system, and I just thought, well, geez, I could either give this to my boss or I could just do it myself and go and buy all the stuff. And I did my first install, and out the back of my Ford Focus with the back seats down.
Very good.
And it sort of went from there, really. And then I, sold some more stuff, took on some people, and and then that was 13 years ago. So
Okay, cool. That was going to be my next question. So you've had Homeplay as your business now for 13 years, and as I alluded to, obviously you're here on the show to talk about this beautiful new showroom that you have put in place. But actually, where I think we should start, James, is before that, and immediately before. What was the iteration of your physical space? Were you in this same building? Did you remodel? Did you end up getting a new space? Where was Homeplay at before this remodel? And what was sort of going through your mind as you decided to embark down this extensive journey of building the showroom out?
So we've been in this building for 6 years now. We've just signed a new 10-year lease. I did have the opportunity to buy it a couple of years ago, and for some bizarre reason, I didn't, and I really wish I had it done. But anyway, the reason we're in this building was because about 6 years ago, I sold half of the business to two of my best customers. The plan was that we had a lot of big plans. They had tons of money, these guys. But what I really needed was time and help, not really money. So I ended up giving them back the money they gave me for the business and took the shares back. So I still own 100% of the company now, or 100% of the debt actually now. And now, but the upshot of that was that we ended up with quite a big office space, about 2,000 square feet, that really we didn't need because we had all these grand plans. That didn't really come off. So we've had a big space, but we did get a good deal on it. So it's been quite serviceable financially for 6 years. And about a year ago, I sort of thought, well, it'd be nice to have a home cinema demo room to be able to show people what we can do. Mm-hmm. And then I sort of thought, well, it would also be nice to have a couple of media room setups, and lighting's a pretty big part of what we do too, so maybe we could do some of that. And it sort of sprawled from being a corner of the office into, well, now it's like most of the office. So we're all crammed into a little space at the end of the office now. We're doing all our work and rack build and stock and all that sort of stuff in there. So we're used to being in 2,000 square feet, and now our office is, well, about a third of that now. But the plan is to turn that into a design-only office, and then get a separate unit on the industrial estate we're on for rack build and stock and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah, it is. It looks like it was obviously a very big project, and the results are amazing. We'll share out some links to videos and pictures that you have up on your website, homeplay.tv/experience. Looks like the URL for that, and people can take a look at the end. Again, before we jump into the tech, I want to circle back and just talk about the mentality to make that decision. Seth and I are both former integrators. We've got a lot of integrators who listen to the show, and everybody familiar with the industry, I think, is aware of this sort of debate that's going on about, do you really invest big in a showroom, or do you keep that minimal and spend that money elsewhere? And I've heard both sides of that argument, and clearly you've made a big bet here on the value of having a showroom and having a place that clients can come and experience that technology firsthand. What's your rationale behind that? I mean, why do you think it's worth making that investment?
Yeah, to me, it doesn't really feel like a gamble. It's like face-smackingly obvious to me that now you can buy all this stuff, in Best Buy, and you can buy Nest cameras and Sonos speakers and all that kind of stuff. None of it is, I don't think, particularly impressive. It's really hard to impress people. I remember 5 years ago when we were selling Sonos with Napster, and I would type any song. I would give the controller to a client and say, type in any song you like, and it'll play. And they were like, wow, that's amazing. But now you do that, and they're like, yeah, whatever, show me something else. People are used to be able to control their lights with their phone and whatever. So the Peter Aylett from Archimedes summed it up really well. He said that the analog is where the money is. I don't think he phrased it exactly like that, but that's how I see it. Digital stuff that just switches on and off, hue lights and all that kind of stuff is so, it's just everywhere now. Whereas it's very difficult to actually show someone amazing sound and amazing picture and beautiful lighting. I don't think that Philips Hue is kind of nice in where it sits in the market, but it certainly wouldn't work in a luxury home. And so that's why we decided to spend the money, really, because we wanted to create really a wow experience, which I think is what we've done here.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that there's a lot of commodity technology out there now, and it's really important to be able to educate consumers about what is different and what is better about working with a professional, because there certainly are differences in performance and installation and service and all of that go with it. And sometimes having a physical space to go experience that is really critical to driving that point home. So that makes a lot of sense. Let's jump in now and talk about some of the stuff you have going on in this space. And like I said, we'll include a link in our show notes to some pictures and video that you can go check out. Pictures obviously being worth 1,000 words, but we want to hear some of the backstory about this and design decisions and particular challenges that you may have run into with putting this space together. And where I want to start, maybe on the technology spectrum in terms of complication, maybe on the lower end, but beautiful showpiece. Right there in the video thumbnail, when you go to the website, you've got this Homeplay logo embedded in this, it looks like landscaping basically on the wall. Really cool piece, and it looks like you've got some landscape audio integrated into that. And just talk about that, walk our listeners through what the thought process was there. It's a really amazing looking piece as presumably as you walk into the showroom.
Yeah, well, we work with an interior designer who's local to us, but is really well regarded in London, called Hill House, and we work with some projects on them, and they suggested that living wall as the sort of centerpiece as you walk in. So I can't take credit for that as much as I'd like to, but it was all their idea, but I'm really pleased with the way it's worked out. And when they showed me a picture of it in their kind of mood boards, and I was like, oh, that would be cool. We could put some speakers in there because it looks gardeny. And then we sort of turned the entrance area into a sort of a bit of a garden theme. So we've got some triad landscape speakers and an in-ground subwoofer and a tree and some uplights and stuff. But it's just because it softens the place a bit of greenery.
Sure.
It's I'm super pleased with it, and everyone comments on it when they come in.
Oh yeah. I have to imagine. I mean, it's a very striking piece, and I think to use that to sort of advertise or make people aware of what's possible with landscape audio these days is cool. I know that's a growing category, and integrators love it because there's good margin on it, and it installs easily, and it adds a ton of value and enjoyment to the space. And so it's a great category to sell. And I know that end users and consumers really like it because it's something sort of new that they haven't seen before, and the ability to put these landscape audio systems out in bigger living areas and really have that audio seamlessly integrated into an outdoor living space is really, really cool. And I know every client that I ever did that for really loved it. So I think it's cool that you guys have decided to showcase it in that way.
Yeah. And also it's always, what we were thinking when we were doing the whole place is it's always women that we're trying to sell to. Guys come in here and they're itching for big TVs and speakers and stuff. So we really wanted to make the space really just really stunning and beautiful, to make it look like a luxury home, not just in terms of the tech, but in terms of the finishes and the furniture that's in here. So yeah, we worked with we partnered with a furniture company that we work with on lots of projects, and they're using it as their showroom as well. So they put in tons of amazing furniture that frankly I would never have been able to afford, but because they're using it as their showroom as well, they were prepared to make an investment. So we've got, I don't know, a couple of £100,000 worth of furniture in here that just looks amazing.
Wow.
It really makes the place.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's great that you could find that synergy, and I think it's a testament to the quality of the place that you'd put together, that you've put together here, that they would put that sort of investment into the space, and I agree. It represents. It really does look like a living space. Like, it doesn't look like a space that's meant to put technology first. It looks like a space that's meant to put living first and show how technology can sort of integrate into that in a relatively seamless way, if that makes sense. So, moving on from the specifics of the landscape audio piece, talk about what you did for audio throughout the rest of the space. I'm assuming maybe a fairly standard distributed audio system in there. Did you do anything else like invisible speakers or anything along those lines?
Yeah, we've got a lot of plastering stuff in here. So we've got hidden subwoofers, plastering Amina speakers. There's 50, I think it's 57 speakers in the whole space, but you really have to look pretty hard to see any of them. We've got subwoofers hidden in the wall. Yeah, plastering speakers. We've got speakers in the wall and the ceiling. All the grills have been painted to match the wall coverings as well, so they really blend in nicely. One of my favourite bits is we worked with the furniture company to make you may have seen it on the video, it's a sliding panel mechanism. So it's a future automation mechanism that's pretty off the shelf, where a wooden panel slides back and then up to reveal a TV. But we took it a step further by integrating speakers into the wood veneer of the cabinet. So we've got a full 5.1 surround sound system hidden within a piece of furniture. So you've got left speaker to the left of the screen. The center speaker is the new Sony acoustic surface, I think they call it. TV actually has a center channel input on it, so it's got a TV with binding posts on it, which is kind of nuts. But it works as a center channel in a surround sound system. So you've got a left speaker to the left of the TV built into the wooden piece of furniture, the center speaker, and then the right speaker. So it's totally invisible when it's not being used as a TV, but it sounds really amazing. We've paired that up with a triad sub that's also hidden in the ceiling. So, and that's probably the one that gets the best reactions. Whenever anyone comes here, that's the one that they tend to be blown away by most. Because
I do remember seeing that on the video, and walk the listeners through a little bit of, in layman's terms, how that works. If people aren't perhaps familiar with what's possible using motorized lifts to move things around and unveil TVs, this is a really, really cool example. I have to imagine a whole lot of project management went into getting this to come together the way it did, and it turned out beautiful. But talk our listeners through a little more specifically how that experience works. When you walk up and you hit the button, what happens?
Well, we're a Control 4 business, basically. Our whole business is really based around Control 4, and we're a Control 4 certified showroom. So it's super easy. You just use the Control 4 remote to turn it on. You hit watch, you select what you want to watch, and it comes on. But that is obviously, there's a ton of stuff going on in the background. But really all we do to make the future automation mechanism do its thing is just flick a relay or send an RS-232 code. I can't remember the exact details, but
sure. But more generally, like, talk about how what the physically in the space, like what do you see? Like the panels moving off, and the TV I noticed sort of pops out, I think, a little bit from behind the paneling. It's a really, really cool install.
Yeah, so there's it really there's one wooden panel that moves backwards and then up and then hides within the cabinet, and then the TV sort of slides forward and then fills in the space that was left by the panel that was there before. It's kind of hard to explain. Really, it's the sort of thing you need to see. That's really why we built the place, because this was always my issue. I'd go out to someone's house and I'd tell them about all the amazing stuff we could do. I'd be waving my arms around like crazy, and then they'd be looking back at me kind of blankly, saying, "I don't really get it, James." And that was why we built the place, because everything we do, as I say, it's so experiential. And frankly, because this is so unique, we can charge a lot of money for it. It's not something that you can just go to Best Buy and buy, and you can't say, "Hey, other dealer, can you price match me one of these cabinets?" Because there's a lot of time and effort and research and planning that goes into making a cabinet like that, and not everyone can do it, and that's really what enables us to charge more money than our competitors.
Yeah, and I would echo that. I mean, I think you're even putting it lightly. Having project managed for many, many years in the high end space, I look at a lift like that, and like you said, James, listeners should go check out the video to see this lift. But I just, every time I see something like that, the first thing that jumps to my mind is that must have been a big project management task to make that come together the way it did. So I would encourage people to go check that out. It's really, really cool. Staying on the audio video theme here, I know you've got it looks like a dedicated theater in the space. Talk about what you did in that room.
Yeah, that's right. So we've got a pretty small room by kind of cinema standards, but we specifically didn't want to make it massive because we wanted to show people that you don't need a huge room to have a really amazing experience. The room is, I'm going to have to do it in metric, is about 3.5 meters wide by 5.5 meters long. Forgive me.
So our listeners will be able to do some math.
Yeah. So it's not a big space. It's probably the size of a decent sized spare bedroom or a garage or something like that, a small garage. But it's with the whole end of one wall is a screen. We've got quite a low ceiling in there, and this is how it's very rare you get a perfect room to build a cinema. There are always constraints that you have to work within. In here, because of the way the building's made up, we've got a lot of beams that go across, concrete beams that made the whole ceiling had to be quite low. So that presented some challenges with how to get a projector in there. So we ended up using a special mirror lift. So the projector actually lives up in the ceiling, which is great because it keeps the noise of the projector out of the room. So that's another distraction out of the way, because no one wants to sit right next to a noisy fan of a projector. A quiet scene in a film, it can be really distracting, and it raises the noise floor of the room, which means that you need more power and all that kind of thing. So we have so the projector lives up in the ceiling, fires onto a set of 2 mirrors that motorize down out of the ceiling and then back onto the screen. So the projector is actually facing away from the screen in the ceiling. And
interesting.
We had to install an air conditioning system just specifically for the projector to keep it cool, because obviously projectors get pretty hot. And having it up in the ceiling void, it wouldn't have lasted very long without any cooling. So that was fun, sorting that out. And then when we did fire it all up, we realized that our air conditioning system was actually really loud. It sounded like a jet engine. So then we had to work out how to get these great big 1.5 meter long silencers installed to keep the noise down. So, I mean, that's just custom install. Projects like that are always complicated, and you're always coming up against things that the actual mirror lift itself is practically a prototype, actually. So we went through a bit of pain getting that in. There's just but it's fun, it's what makes coming into work every day fun. And as I say, it's what enables us to charge more money than if we were just installing a Sonos Playbase with a Samsung telly stuck on top of it.
Right.
Because that's very easy to do, and there's a limit to what you can charge for doing that. And really, that's the whole ethos of the business. Really, is we do complicated, difficult stuff, but we charge a lot of money to do it.
Yeah, as you should. Like, I'll go back to what I said about the TV lift. Anytime you've got custom work and you've got audio visual components, it's literally lifting in and out of the structure of the building and all the cooling requirements and everything that comes with that. It is no small feat to make a space like that come together. So kudos to you for seeing it through. I know that's again, the old project manager in me is listening to all of this and just, totally empathizing. Right.
Yeah, no, it was, there were moments where I just thought, oh man, what have I done? And I wish, because I remember sending an email out to all my customers saying, hey everyone, we're building a new experience center. This was in January. So we're building a new experience center. You got to come down and see it. It should be ready about March. Well, of course, yeah, we didn't actually end up finishing it until late October.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There you go.
It was for many reasons, because I just sort of I made it more and more complicated. Every night after work, I would come in here and stand and look around and sort of think, how can we change this and how can we make that better? And it was that iterative process that made it as good as it is. If we had just finished it in March, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as cool as this, because it takes time to sort of, just to mold things over and look at things in different ways and think how the space could work. And that's a problem that we come across a lot on projects where someone will buy a house or an apartment and they'll want it turned around really, really quickly because they want to be in for Christmas or, a birthday or whatever it is, some event. So they're pushing everyone on the project to get everything finished really quickly, and you don't have a sort of the proper lead-in time to be able to design the project properly. And they end up with a higher bill than they would have done, and a project that isn't as good as it could have been if the design team had the time to work on it properly. So I was really glad to be able to take my time. We were lucky that we were able to do that, and I'm pleased that we did, because it's way better than I'd originally set out to make it ready.
Yeah, well, it looks great. And speaking of the look of the overall space, I want to shift gears here and make sure we protect some time to talk about lighting, because as I look through the pictures of the space, one of the things that jumps out at me in almost every picture is the number of loads of lighting and the different styles of fixtures that you have in there. And I see backlighting on this paneling, and I see lighting on the shelving and all of that strip lighting, different fixtures. And it's clear that a lot of thought went into the lighting design of the space. And I think that's one of the things that people really underestimate, is how much work goes into designing the lighting fixture specification. And then, of course, most specifically to where the technology aspect, or the control aspect, I should say, comes in, is figuring out all the different load types and how to integrate that and what's your control mechanism. So just talk about the overall lighting that you have going on in the space. What are you guys using to drive all of that? And what was the kind of overall thought process behind what you wanted to do with lighting?
Yeah, so the lighting is, on some projects, it's getting towards being 50% of our business now. That's lighting controls, that's keypads, dimmers, control gear, and shading, so blinds, curtains, that sort of thing, and the actual fixtures and fittings themselves. So we want to be really supplying the whole lighting system end to end, not just because we make more money, but because it means that we get to control the whole thing. So we can guarantee the quality of the light and the quality of the dimming, and the way that the whole overall thing looks. So we really wanted to go to town with the lighting on here and really make it stand out. Also because it's the thing that will it comes from another budget in a project. AV, might not get the same budget as lighting does. So it enables us just to sort of raise our ticket price on a job,
Right.
because we're getting a piece from another pie on the project, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned there, do you guys actually do the fixtures? I know a lot of integrators will do the control, but yeah, not as many. More are starting to get into it, but it sounds like you guys have jumped into doing fixtures. How's that part of the business working out?
No, absolutely. It's a key part, and one of the things that we're able to demonstrate here is one of my favourite bits. Actually, is over in our kind of lighting design corner, where we've got various different types of lighting effects. We've got some cool track lighting and different types of downlights, just showing different beam angles and color temperatures, and some beautiful plastering floor washers, just to kind of get people sort of, just to show them some ideas and show them some of the cool stuff we can do. But I mean, all over the showroom, there are lots of cool examples of lighting. But focused in this particular corner, we've got 2 vases of flowers, each with a downlight above them. One of them is it's the best downlight that you can get in Screwfix here. Screwfix is, I guess, like, I don't know, Target maybe. I'm not too up on my American hardware
got
board.
it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but it's it's like a £30 downlight. What's that? Sort of $40 downlight, something like that. So it's not a cheap downlight, but it's the one that if you ask your builder for a nice downlight, it's probably the one that you're going to get. It's probably even better than the one that you'd end up getting. So we've got that next to one of our downlights. And it's an amazing demonstration, mainly because of not just the brightness and the luminance that comes out of our downlight compared to the sort of the builder downlight, but the color rendering. The color rendering of the builder downlight, although it's known, it says on its spec that it's high CRI. It's actually about 85 out of 100. So the color rendering index goes from 0 to 100. 100 is sunlight. Sunlight's like the gold standard for humans in light. So, if you want to see what something looks like, you like a fabric looks like, you take it outside to see what it looks like in the sunlight. So 85 out of 100 is pretty good, and it's better than a lot of LED lights that are out there. But our light next to it is 98 out of 100. And the difference between 85 and 98 is really stunning. It's an amazing demonstration. It's one of the best things in here. So you've got these 2 vases. One looks kind of dead and lifeless, and the other one looks like it's in sunlight, basically. It looks really,
very cool.
Yeah. And of course, all our clients' houses are full of beautiful artwork and beautiful fabrics and wall finishes and furniture. And people, of course, there's people in there as well, and they look better lit up by nicer lights. So being able to show people the difference between a £30, £40 downlight and an £100 downlight is really critical, because if I just turn up at someone's house and say, hey, we've got these great downlights, they're 3 times the price of the downlight that you were going to buy otherwise, they look at you like you're a mentalist. So if we can actually show them the difference, then anyone who's in the market for that kind of product will just buy it. There's no, you just wouldn't want the lesser quality light. So that's really effective.
I can imagine, and the difference is, pardon the pun, is probably night and day when you can. It really is. When you can see it in person. Yeah.
It is a stunning difference. It even comes out in a photo. Actually, it really is. It's one of the things that I wasn't sure how well it was going to work as a demonstration, but when we first fired it up, I was like, oh yes, that is awesome. We're going to sell a lot of downlights.
Yeah. And what do you guys, if you don't mind me asking, what fixture types are you guys selling? Is it Lutron stuff?
No. They're expensive. They're not that expensive. No, it's the Lutron.
Got it.
They're a British brand called or Luna. And and you tend to find them in nice hotels and high-end residential, basically, but they're only really specified through specialist lighting designers. And they're a great company. They do a ton of different variants. You can get beautiful frameless plastering ones. You can get them in bronze or gold or whatever you like. They're all custom built. But the other key thing is that they use an amazing brand of driver called Eldo LED, who make the best drivers for control with DALI, which is the light system that we use in conjunction with Lutron. So DALI, for those who haven't come across it, is the digital addressable lighting interface. So rather than using conventional dimming, the intelligence, if you like, is built into the driver that lives in next to the light in the ceiling. So it means that you've got a lot less equipment at your head end, so you don't have to have big racks of dimmers. You have much less cabling. It's much easier to wire. You get way better quality dimming as well, much smoother dimming, and a lot more flexibility as well, because each light is individually addressed. You can change how lights are grouped together within a room, and it's very easy to add in extra lights as well. So if we decide we want to put in an extra strip of linear lighting somewhere or whatever, we can just tap off the circuit that's in there, which you just couldn't do with conventional sort of resistive dimming. So
yeah, that's a big difference. The independently addressable lighting control is, for those who may not be familiar, is really a game changer, I would say, in terms of the flexibility, especially in addition to the other reasons you cited. But when you go to quote unquote more traditional lighting control methods, you really had to have everything very tightly planned out relatively early in the project, in terms of, okay, what lights are going to be grouped together on what load, right? And with digitally addressable lighting, I understand you get a lot more flexibility in terms of figuring out, okay, when I push this button, what do I want to happen? And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal, especially on these luxury projects where people get into the home and they've spent a lot of money, not just on the technology, but on the home as a whole, and they want to have that flexibility and the ability to get sort of creative, I guess, about how things are controlled and grouped together. And my understanding is DALI and other technologies like that are really making that a lot easier.
Yeah, no, it's a great way of doing it, and that's by far our preferred way of dimming. I think we've only got 3 circuits of sort of conventional dimming in the whole place, and that's just a couple of chandeliers that we've got and pendants that require it. So no, it's great, and also just the way that you can dim right down to 1%, just to a tiny, just less than a candle light, which is very difficult to do with a conventional dimmer. And also just dimming linear LED as well. Linear LED strips it's very difficult to get a really nice smooth dimming. And other, just we just pay so much attention to all of the linear strip that we use has super tiny LED dots, or actual LED chips within it, and they're really tightly packed. It's about 20 watts a meter, so it's really bright. It's a really nice warm color temperature, and it's high CRI as well. But because everywhere, it's all in a proper diffuser, so you don't get nowhere in here can you see any of that horrible kind of hot spotting that you tend to see with LED tape, and also there's no shadows either. Quite often with linear LED, you end up with horrible wavy shadows where it hasn't quite been installed right or designed right. So in a ceiling coffer, you end up with a very uneven looking light. We've got none of that in here because it was all designed and thought through right from the beginning.
Right.
And just being able to show people that and it is really powerful, because everyone has seen horrible LED strip with all the dots and everything. People have these days, that LED strips so pervasive, it's just everywhere, and everyone has seen that. And we can show people that with a bit of planning and using the right equipment and the right people, we can make sure that doesn't happen in their house.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's a great a fantastic example, lighting in general, but that in particular is a great example. And what you talked about with the flowers that you have set up and seeing the different color rendering, great example of where experience really matters, right? And that's where having a showroom is irreplaceable, because you can try to explain this stuff all day and do like what you jokingly said and sort of wave your arms around and try to explain things, but it's totally different when people can come in and experience it. So definitely, again, we're running up against our time, but would encourage people to go take a look at the pictures in the video, and we'll have those up in our show notes. James, I want to start to wind down the conversation by asking you, like, what would you say going into the project, or I should say looking back at the project rather, what would you say was the biggest challenge or sort of unexpected obstacle that you had to overcome?
Paying for it.
That's simple, right? Call it a wrap.
Yep. Yeah. Well, because I originally set out a budget at the beginning, and we ended up spending 3 times what I'd set out. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, well, we had some cash in the business, but yeah, I ended up having to go and borrow some money. If we didn't have a decent credit rating, it could have put us under, to be quite honest.
Wow.
Because but I really do feel it's so well worth it. We're absolutely inundated with leads at the moment, and we've got, great interior designers are starting to sort of flock here, because they know that if they come here, they can. I think we're taking home technology from being a necessary evil for interior designers to being absolutely necessary. No interior designer is a fan of TVs. Like they're just, the AV guy's always a pain in the ass.
Yep.
But I think they're starting to get it, and they're like, oh wow, that these guys really know what they're doing, and we want them involved in our project. So it's it's brilliant. I'm super glad we did it. I think I'm absolutely. I've done a few business things in my life that I've sort of in the back of my mind, I thought, is that really going to work? But with this, I just feel like absolutely, I just know it's going to work. Well, it already is. I'm super pleased.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I agree. And I think the space came together even more beautifully than the renderings, which, by the way, I can't wind down this interview without hearkening back to a little bit of a laugh that we've had on the show, because as listeners to the show might know, we do our pick of the week every week. And gosh, this must have been months and months ago. I don't even know how long, but you had put up some 3D renderings of the space, and Seth had found them, and the 3D renderings were so good that we literally thought they were pictures of the finished space. And so we talked about it on our picks of the week, and you were like, yeah, that was actually not the finished product, but thanks for the shout out. So anyways, the good news is those looked great. The finished product looks even better. So congratulations on getting this project buttoned up. And I really hope that it pays dividends for you. It sounds like it already is. And if you've got designers and architects sort of flocking to the space, I mean, that's really the goal in a showroom, I would say, for what you're doing. And so congratulations on getting this finished up. If any of our listeners wanted to find out more about it or connect with you to ask a couple of follow-up questions, what would be the best way for them to do that?
I'm not that good at social media, actually. You can just email me. Instagram and all that is something I've...
Or become a patron and jump into the hub, right? You're one of our most active.
Yeah, you can do that. Actually, that is one thing I spend way too much time in there. But you can just email me, James@Homeplay.tv, and I would be delighted to talk to anyone about this because it's been a lot of fun, and I like talking about nerdy stuff. So yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I'm sure you've got a sympathetic audience here, and James, we do appreciate you taking some time out of your day to join us, and keep us posted on how the showroom treats you, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Great. No, thanks for having me on. It's been great.
All right. Thanks, James. Take care.
And that wraps up the interview. All the links and topics we discussed tonight can be found in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/236. While you're there, don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter, which includes even further analysis as well as other industry news that may not have made the show, especially this week. A lot going on, but we're kind of taking a week off. Lowe's kind of getting rid of Iris. That's kind of a big story, so we're going to have to come back and get to that one. Don't forget, you can join us in their chat room, usually live Wednesday starting 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can find out more going to HomeTech.fm/live. No pick of the week or mailbag this week, but if you do have feedback, questions, comments, picks of the week, or any other great ideas for a show, give us a shout. Our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm, or you can visit HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out the online form. And lastly, we want to give a big thank you to everyone who does support the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about our Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a shout out on the show, but every single pledge gets you to invite to our private Slack channel, The Hub, where you can actually get in there and converse with James daily about all the crazy stuff that has gone on in the showroom. That is a beautiful piece, and I'm kind of bummed out. I was too sick to even stay awake through the interview to be there for it, so really bummed out about that. But hopefully we'll get back on the show next week. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'm out of town. Jason's out of town. But if we do manage to get a show to you next week, it'll be there in the feed over at HomeTech.fm. Thanks very much for listening tonight, and we'll talk to you later.